Welcome to session 7 of carving a drake mallard, and today we're going to focus on finishing the carving of the body, and we may get to attaching the head today as well. We'll see how it goes. But the first thing we're going to do is some sanding because of all the rough carving that we've done. I want to smooth things up before we move to some of the more detailed body carving. Going to use this 1/2-inch drum sander to sand the entire body. And this is 120 grit sandpaper. I'm finishing up the prep work on the roughed in body with 120 grit sandpaper, just smoothing things out. Now I want to begin to define where some of the major feather groups are, and carve in some indication of feathering down here, not try to detail every feather. Use your reference materials to get these feather shapes and positions correct. The speculum is going to fall in about right here. I'll do a little more sketching and then come back. I've used a pencil and my reference materials to kind of sketch in where the major feather groups are. I'm not going to carve all these individual feathers. I just like to get a feel for where groups of feathers are going to lie. And now we'll begin carving a few of these details in. Okay, I have my feathers laid out, and like I said, I'm not going to carve every individual feather here, but what I do want to do is put some separation between the scapulars of the back and this big tertial group. So I'm going to start by carving some around these scapulars and then lowering this tertial group a little bit. Not a large ridge here, but just a little bit of separation and distinction between the two groups. Using this bullet-shaped ruby carver, and I'll begin working on the back of the scapulars here and relieving wood from that area, and then blending that out to lower the tertials a little bit and create some separation between the scapulars and the tertials here. You can see I'm using the tip of the bit to kind of outline the feather first, and then going in and blending that down and out towards the next feather. I'm going to use this ruby bit across the back to carve in groups of feathers and just kind of sculpt, give some shape to some of these feather groups along the side pocket here. Using the tip to kind of define the first line, and you can see here I'm not hitting every feather. There's a little group of feathers, so I'm going to skip and go on up to this one. And once I have them outlined, then I'll go back to kind of blend in both directions. starting at the base of the feather and blending out. Now I'm going to flip the decoy around and go back in the opposite direction and blend these feather edges to soften them and round them a bit. And continue to work these feather groups to put a little definition around the feathers. Doing the same thing on these tail coverts, grooving those in a bit and then blending them out to give us some rounded feather shapes back there. I'm also going to use the same bit along the cape here and just carve in a few indications of cape feathers. Relieve some of those feathers so there's a little bit of structure there. After the carving is done, I use the 1/2-inch drum sander and also hand sand these areas to kind of blend and round feathers to soften things a bit and make sure everything is smooth, no harsh shadows. Once the rough sanding is done, I'm going to use the knife to score along the edges of these tertial feathers. Just be careful, take your time, put a nice clean edge on each of those tertial feathers. Then I'll use this little 1/8 inch diameter ruby bit to follow those scored knife marks and begin to relieve wood on the next lower tertial. So we step down those tertials. Go along the edge first and then go back and blend that out. Then I go back to the sandpaper and work those tertials and also these upper tail coverts to smooth out any of the carving marks that are left by the grinding. Next, we want to work on the speculum and define some of the feathers in the speculum group. We're going to work on this front edge first. I'm going to use that little 1/8 inch ruby bit and begin to define this front edge group of feathers. Grind a little bit of a line there and then begin blending that out into the rest of the speculum as it goes back towards the rear of the decoy. So you can see that just enough to cast a little bit of a shadow there. And then after sanding the area, I'm going to use the knife again and score these speculum feathers like we did on the tertials very carefully, just to give a nice sharp edge on those feathers. And then use that 1/8 inch ruby bit again and do the same thing we did on the tertials. Just grind a little bit of a step down into the next speculum feather. So there's just enough there to cast a slight shadow, but not too much. And then use your sandpaper to blend those so you have a nice soft look. Just a quick look at that area. And then, like I said, use sandpaper and smooth things out. Show you a quick view of the bird at this point. Got a lot of the body carving completed. And just spend some time sanding and smoothing things down, and then we'll put a few splits in. I'm using that 1/8 inch ruby bit, and I've kind of penciled in some areas where I think I want to put some splits in. And just pull up as you pull back so that you make a little V-shape split in the feather. Depending on the level of detail you're looking for, you can do a lot of this or a little bit or none at all. But on this particular bird, I'm doing a little bit of carved splits to match up with the painted splits that I'll put on later. Also going to put a few along the top of the side pocket here. Just a quick look at that area. And do the same thing in these upper tail coverts, just add a few splits with that 1/8 inch ruby bit. All right, we've got the body carved, and in the next session we'll attach the head to the body, and we'll be pretty much done with the carving of the drake mallard at that time. Thanks for checking it out, and I look forward to the next session with you.